Before we get into this episode, just a reminder that in the show description is a link created by Twitter user Botanical Dyke. It includes bail funds, memorial funds, actions, advice for protesters, and so much more so that we can focus on actionable items for social justice because Black Lives Matter.
I want that. Special delivery. I need that. Special delivery.
Welcome to the Special Delivery Podcast. I am your host, Special, and on this show, I sit down with artists to break down everything you don't know and should know about their latest project. And on this episode, Konkrete Violet calls in to talk about their album. We talked about everything from the spelling of their name, breaking down every single track, and just conversations about them going on a retreat to create this album and healing, boundaries, and them focusing on making songs not only about their journeys and what they went through and things that they're dealing with, but also focusing on what's going on in the world and also in the country. Also, just a quick editor's note, there is a little battery beep from like a smoke detector, so if you hear it, it's not yours, it's in the interview. I tried to take it out. I did the best I could. But let's hop into it.
Hey y'all, I'm Kate Lamont. I'm 4 years old. Just kidding, you can edit that part out.
I was like, no, you're not.
I'm happy to be here.
There you go.
I'm happy to have you.
I'm Noble. I'm a Bay Area native, producer, and musician.
I am Monty Draper, aka Future Top Chef, aka Future. No, I'm kidding. No, what's up, Special?
Yes.
Welcome back. He still holds the MVP title for being on the most episodes of Special Delivery.
We're gonna keep it going. We're gonna keep it going.
Back in this thing. I'm like, you have so many projects. It's only a matter of time. Goodness. Mm-hmm. But today we are here to talk about Konkrete Violet. Oh my goodness gracious. When I tell you I'm excited, it's not even close to exaggeration. The music is gorgeous, powerful, thought-provoking, just gems all day. Just gems, gems, gems. We had to start out by talking about the fact that I'm privy to the information that this was made on what people would call a retreat. And you guys just going up into the mountains and making music. Kate, do you want to kind of speak about what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, sure. It was great. So Ivan grew up north. Did you call it Napa, Ivan? I mean, it's not the town, but it's the
Oakville, Yountville, somewhere around in between.
Yountville. Okay. We went up there. Noble invited us up. I think we were just hoping for a spot where maybe we could sort of control our environment and knock out a lot of work in a shorter period of time. And so Noble suggested that we go up. He actually built like a little studio with his family. And we did that several times, and it really was a retreat. Oh my gosh. And then, Noble's family kind of invented hospitality. Wow. It really was a retreat. That's the best term for it. But it did create the environment that we were looking for, exceeding all of our expectations, honestly. Just total creative freedom. And so it was great. Right next to the famous old railroad, the wine train still comes by. What's the name of that track?
The wine train, I guess.
Just the wine train. But yeah, that's what we'd have to stop once in a while to let the train go by. But it really was something special.
I just think that that's such a cool idea for creation in general, like to be able to kind of just put yourself up in a place to where there's no distractions, there's nothing going on, it's just making music. I think that that's such a beautiful experience. Noble, did you want to add anything about that?
I did it once before because I changed my name to Noble maybe a year or two before meeting Monty and Kate. And my first project under this new name was with a soul singer from New York named Chauncey Yearwood. And I flew to New York to record for a couple weeks with him. So we were discussing out in New York, well, you should come to the West Coast and let's record the rest of it out on the West Coast. And we were debating on how we would do that. And I was like, oh, well, we should just record at my folks' spot. I could just turn this little studio to a music recording studio. That was kind of the first time I did it. And it worked out great. So once I was kind of presented with this project with Kate and Monty, we were discussing how we wanted to record it and stuff like that. And I already had a great experience recording the other project up there. And I was like, well, we can do it at my folks' spot. I mean, it's, secluded. There's not really any distractions. We can play music as loud as we want. I mean, it's kind of a good environment just to be loud if you want to, or be secluded if you want to and not be too distracted.
Beautiful, beautiful. Monty, you want to add anything?
Just over the years of learning the process and getting better, my preference for recording is those like retreat styles. Like it don't necessarily have to be that secluded, but does need to be like a change in scenery, and then have some sort of like, it's almost like this team element coming up playing sports. We would go on trips and you get closer and you learn like subtle things about people, right? What they're into, what they may even be going through, like how much that time away is informing so much of the art. And I had already known it by then, but this particular album sort of cemented that this is going to be my preference of recording from here on out. I don't really have a desire or a passion to sit in a room and, hey, send me a verse. And I need the people I'm collaborating with, because then, with raps too, I don't want it to just be this personal experience. Like I want it to be a shared experience with the producer. So like I need the producer to know, to feel free to offer, input on what they're going through. And then even with Ivan, especially, both him and Soundtrack have become like my favorite producers, because they're not just like, oh, I'm gonna make you a beat. It's like, nah, they got ideas and input on cadence and style and pocket and stuff. And I personally really thrive in that, so getting to work in such a close proximity. And then Kate hit it on the head too, in terms of hospitality. That Italian hospitality is completely different, Like we ate
Really
so
is.
good. There's something about it, like just sharing that space. I was reading a lot about the Kanye experience when they were doing the Hawaii sessions, and they would hike together, they would hoop together, they would eat together, and then the studio was kind of like this thing that was there if you were inspired or if you wanted to get to it.
Right.
There's something to be said about recording and writing in such a space, because it would be times we'd be sitting down to eat, and based off a conversation everybody was having, I'd be like, yo, I got the hook, and just would disappear and would come back, and like the hook would be laid and be like, yo, what did you do? But it would be based off a conversation, like what Noble was saying or what Katie was saying. Sal was with us too, so I was kind of pulling a lot from all of them and just our conversation, and the best way to sort of have those real stripped down conversations is always over food, and just so happen to be some of the best food too. So
it really sounds like the ultimate form of connection, and it's super cool to be able to create and connect in that space. It's beautiful. Then of course, you guys did a super dope episode of Think Beat Radio. If the people haven't checked that out, please do. And you guys kind of broke down the title and the name Concrete Violet, and just the duality of the concrete jungle, but also understanding and delicateness and being welcoming. Of course, my first instinct is the rose that grew from concrete, which you actually reference on the third track. But something that I'm super interested in is the spelling of it. Who came up with the spelling for concrete in Concrete Violet?
I don't remember.
I'll talk time period, right? Like I'm still going through it though. Like this real unique state of evolution where you realizing like how little you really know. And in so many of the circles, I get to be little bro, but immediately the whole little bro thing goes out the window, because it's like, yo, lead the way. When that happens over and over again, you go into that situation like, yo, I got an idea for everything. And it was real informative. I respect both Noble and Kate so much, to the highest degree of like creators and thinkers and people. The ideas, they come so fast, and it takes such a special group of people to feel comfortable to share it with, because it's so delicate. And I don't mean any harm. I get really excited. I get really inspired. And it just happens really, really fast. And in certain scenarios, that could feel like somebody trying to take over. But they were real gentle and like offered me a lot of space to just have ideas. And so what I was personally experiencing was like breakup, heartbreak, all this stuff. But at the same time, the most beautiful experience I could ask for as an artist in terms of like creativity, getting to express myself in a way. I couldn't think of a better way to heal. You know what I'm saying? Like with people you respect, you really care for, and then getting to make music. And that duality, or the spectrum we talk about, like a Black man specifically, there aren't many safe places to grieve for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just so happened to end up in a safe place to grieve and to put it in adult music. And what that allowed for, I was telling Kate this, is like, I'm hella happy listening back to the album and it taking as long as it did, because I forgot what I was going through. Like, I got to heal so much in that process. I forgot everything that was happening. And my brother was like, bro, you good?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, damn, all that did happen. And so we're listening back to the music when we got the masters back. I was so proud that version of me didn't sound bitter, didn't sound angry, or at the very least wasn't expressing it in that tone. And the music informed a lot of that. But again, just that duality, it really is such a unique spectrum to be able to walk that line. But it really says a lot about the group and my partners on that they allowed that space. And so for me, it was these moments where I got to be hard and like keep the bravado of rap, but then there was these real soft, like vulnerable ass moments. And we're talking like bar for bar.
Mm-hmm.
One bar would be like dark, the typical rapper steez, and the very next line would be the most vulnerable, open, exposed, naked truth. You know what I'm saying? And that was right around just like exploring that for me. So the title for me was mad specific, and we mulled over it. We kicked it around, and I remember being frustrated a lot. Was this is the title? This is the title, but it's like nah, it don't work like that. It just don't work like that in a group. And I'm so grateful for that experience because it truly is my preferred way of making music, like super collaborative.
The healing and the gorgeousness in it is just incredible. Goodness. We are very, very thankful. Now we're going to hop into the tracks. First track, Anywhere's Better Than Here.
This is a prepaid call from an inmate at the Hawaii Community Corrections. To accept this call, press 0. To refuse this call, hang up or press 1.
Morning, what's important? Don't you lie dormant. Know where I buried the bodies. How could you turn informant? Couldn't make it last. Blew that whole endorsement, make it back before breakfast. Royalty points imported, why so Lauren? Miseducated, this feel like dedicated.
Noble, goodness gracious. Even going back to Think Big Radio, where you guys were talking about the big soundscapes and how you made this for artists. You use no samples, it's live drums, and you just had this production ready to go. You have these victorious horns. It just comes together wonderfully. How did you know that was going to be the first track?
When I was creating the music, I didn't know that was going to be the first track. Yeah, I don't know. I think that one just kind of felt right. I don't really remember.
I don't remember who did the first order, but I remember immediately thinking that was the right first song, just immediately.
Yeah. You kind of had that intro from Quid.
Mm-hmm. Something about the cinematic quality of that song, the string parts are so amazing. I don't think I heard you guys. I think I left the retreat when you guys were still working, and then I heard the roughs and Monty's part, and I was like, wow, that just blew me away. That became my new favorite. And then Monty was touring. Noble, you came over here and we ended up doing the chorus here. It feels like it's setting you up for what's to come. So it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's definitely, if the feeling's there, just run with it. It doesn't have to be something that's mulled over or really, intricate. It's like, nope, that feels like the first track. It is what it is. And it does have that cinematic quality. Like you said, these songs put together are theatrical, but even within a song, you'll have the act 1 and the act 2. And it really takes you to a place. Like, I really encourage people to really sit with this and let yourself go to these places that you guys create, because it's unlike anything else.
I feel like we could talk about that from so many different angles in terms of when we felt the total creative freedom of this project. Monty and I talked about this as lyricists. It felt like we were free to sort of be kids again. We sort of got this image of like being our middle school age selves, and Noble jumped right in on it too. It was just we all felt like kids just, out in the field having this great time, kind of late summer. It had colors and imagery to it, this feeling that we got. And conceptually, I start to see those things in the first song. And then there's also the lens of like, Monty was talking about his ideas and how fast they were coming. And before the album was going to be self-titled, it actually was going to be titled the name of that song, Anywhere's Better Than Here. And what I love about that, even though we didn't end up using that as the title, that first song sort of sets the stage for like, okay, we're leaving this place that's full of turmoil, that's full of fear, that's full of anxiety, that's full of all the things that have been put on us. And we're transporting back to this time of creative freedom, this time of kind of before a lot of that concrete hits, So that's kind of what the first song does for me. It kind of transports me there, both lyrically and musically. I
love the idea of the summer, too. You guys are just, little middle school flowers just hanging out in the wind and the sun.
We kind of had the idea for the visuals. Visuals were coming, too, for me, especially. This is, Monty talks about his ideas were coming, mine, too. It's almost like we were having these conversations and, you're all seeing a slightly different version, but of the same movie. And for me, it was like an abandoned school. And somebody said abandoned school. We were talking about video sites we might visit. And that was the feeling I was getting, right? Because you can't go back to your youth, and it's however many years ago, but it's sort of overgrown at this point. You know, the violets really have come up through the concrete and the trees, and nobody's trimmed anything in like 25 years, you know? So that imagery all came to me when I heard that first track.
That's so cool. And then I think the voice note mixed with the message within the verses, I kind of get this idea of jail as a concept for ego. Mani, was that something that you were going for, or it just kind of happened?
Yeah, so man, that like our brother, and I know he won't mind because he's mad transparent, but our brother Quid had caught a situation back in Hawaii, in Kauai of all places too. So it's like, again, that duality, one of the most beautiful places in the world. And people use manifest like mad loosely.
He does it.
I watched him manifest getting to Kauai, and he gets there, and then just in one of the worst situations happens, and he ends up serving time. He would call, and then he left that voicemail, and I didn't even know I had that voicemail, and I just happened to listen to it while the music was playing. I was like, oh wow, this is it. And, you know, and in that metaphor of like, if you ain't never been there, we can never compare the two. But from people being in cubicles, from sitting in traffic, the way the school system is, it's like all these things that kind of just eat away at you and your youth and God's gift, our intuition, you know, just keeps eating away. And initially we had the message that he actually left. And that's what he was talking. I don't want to be afraid anymore is what he's saying. And it just touched me. Like I remember sitting there, like listening to that voicemail and thinking about him, because the retreat are the things that he and I would dream about. Like we'd be at my mom's house. I'd be laying on the floor. He'd be laying on the couch, and there wouldn't be no TV on, no lights. We'd just be laying there dreaming about the stuff that we wanted to do. And one of the things we always talked about was like going somewhere remotely and working on music. And that was one of them moments where I felt him, like I wanted him to be there. It's just one of those things that keep you going. Texted Noble, happy Father's Day this morning. And he was just like, man, just thinking back on like how much we've accomplished just meeting each other. It's felt like I've known him my whole life, you know, because we get it immediately. It's his style, the things that he's into. Just feels like a lifetime journey. But it's been quick, but he showed up and appeared at a real specific point in my career, in my life, where I could have easily just quit, you know, because it's the style of music I wanted to make, like how much I wanted to grow as an artist. Like I felt like I wasn't acquiring those tools, or I wasn't meeting the people to get there. And then specifically wanting a style of production, and then he shows up and is not only capable of it but exceed my expectations, that it's a style of production I wanted to be associated with, and the rest is history. We made an album and we're here right now.
It just makes me so happy, things that you were able to create for yourself, and the way not only you guys all work together, but you found each other and you just have this home within each other and are able to create within that. Like it's just unlike anything else. That leads us to track number 2, Suspended Animation, my absolute favorite.
Suspended animation. You're flying with your light down, hands upon the ocean.
Oh my goodness, because it's just so much good stuff. I think I want to start with Kate. The voice layering on that track just absolutely blows my mind.
Right?
Can you break down the inspiration and the process for that?
Well, it was a little bit of that euphoric feeling of like, oh, wow, this is going to be fun. You know what I mean? It was the beginning. It was the first thing that we did in Napa. So I think Mani and Sal got held up in the city and they ended up coming out the next day. So I got up there the night beforehand. Then Noble had some work to do to set up the space for the weekend. So we kind of put that together and got to know his family and everything. And then I just remember feeling like, man, I want to just start working right away, right? And he was feeling the same excitement. So we got in there. And do you remember? I don't remember how we chose that song.
Yeah, I remember.
But I know I was listening to the instrumentals all the way up there, so maybe I suggested it, but that song is a wave. And I just remembered the lyrics really describe what the music made me feel, you know? And then the next day when you guys got there, you guys walked in and we were so excited to play it for you. And then, back to his whole like team mentality, it was basically like that. It was like, okay, your turn. Okay, Monty, go in. Core vocals, come back out. Okay, yeah, I'm done. Your turn. And we just kept tagging in and out. And on that song, it was like the first thing, they walked in, listened to it, and then he got inspired to do his part. So that was fun.
Yes, yes. And then the switch up is like a ramp up. You hear switch ups every now and then, and it's like, oh, okay, the beat switched up, cool. Like, and sometimes it like mellows out, and you're like, okay, cool. But the way this switches up and it ramps up, it's just all feeling. Like you just feel it. Mm-hmm. What was it like for you, Noble, to produce this track?
The inspiration really came from one of my good friends who's a recording engineer, and he put me onto these drums he had. And really all the inspiration came from the drums that he put me onto. The music is sort of made on like the vibe of like the percussion or drums or whatever. And when he gave me these drums, the music I wrote just kind of wrote itself to the drums. Like I didn't have any kind of like preconceived notion. It's just when I have some drums or I make a drum beat or whatever. I actually like it when I have drums that I don't even make, because then it's like the essence is there already. I just got to write the music on top of it. I remember putting the two drums together. I was like, well, this is the first part's cool, but I don't know if it's really going anywhere. And then I was like, it needs like the build up. And so I just kind of combined some drum stuff and kind of combined the ideas into one song. I kind of like to do that a lot with music because it's not that I'm bored with like a 2-bar loop. Some of my favorite music is like just literally like a 2-bar loop. Like if you're listening to old hip hop it's like nothing changes in the whole song. But for me, like, I guess to push myself a little bit more, I always like to kind of just see where I could kind of bring a song or push a song to, either for the good or the bad. Sometimes maybe it's like not the vibe. And if it's not the vibe, then we can always take things out. But I just like to push the music a little bit further than I feel like I did on the last song or whatever.
No, there's definitely a push there. And I'm like I said, it's just all feeling and it just feels so good. And this song, the concept that kind of resonated with me was a letter to America and just saying, this isn't what I wanted for you. Like, this isn't what it has to be. For you, Monty, writing it, what did that feel and look like?
I want to go back, though, because the whole drive up, Kate, I was losing my mind. Because I didn't have nothing. Like, I was like, I don't know what I'm about to get up here and say. I was wholeheartedly panicking the whole way.
Like, what am I going to do?
I'm going to get all the way up here. I didn't waste these people's time because I don't got a single rap written. And
my God, that's wild. I never heard this story.
I'm telling y'all, that trip changed everything. Like, I haven't made music the same since that trip. Because you either paying for studio time or people then took off work or they taking time away from their families. I don't want to waste anybody's time, but I'm like, yo, I can't write a single word. Not where I was at the time. Like I wasn't in a very inspired place, So Special, we get there and hug and say hi to everybody and they go, yo, you got to hear this. And it comes on and I'm like, y'all made this? This what we doing? Immediately my guard was down. I was like, oh, we having fun. I didn't know my pen was that fast. No, that's not true. Because rock was written the same way. It's like every city we hit, we were meeting these people and like our posters were hanging up. So you just inspire you like, damn, this is dope. I thought that was just like a flash in the pan. I didn't know I would feel that again. And then we get up to Yountville and it happened again. So I hear Kate's voice, and the same thing that caught you special is what got me is like how she stacked her vocals. And I've seen her do it. Like I've been at the boards recording her when she's done it, but married with how Noble goes about producing stuff. And I'm telling you, like just the approach, the movement. And every time anybody asks, I'm just like, yo, it's just sophisticated shit that's inspired through somebody who is clearly a hip hop head. There's no mistake in that. Like this is rooted in hip hop, but it's so sophisticated, it could fool you where you go, I don't know what's going on. So you just surrender to the music. And for me, a lot of what was taking place, Nia Wilson had just been murdered. The country was in turmoil and you were starting to see the politics of the Bay Area specifically get exposed. the economic politics. And this is something that I, having gone away to school, I've done papers on and all these different things, but I've never gotten to discuss it and format it in a way where it would be palatable in music. Maybe I just hadn't had the right soundscape, So a lot of the anti-government stuff or just offering a different lens to America as I know it is all informed by the music. And a lot of time, Kate, especially suspended animation though, when I heard it, that's what I was feeling. And I was like, oh, this where we going in. The rebelliousness of the music, it feels like Public Enemy, but it's a lot more accessible on like some Gorillaz type of ambiguous, like we don't know what this is, but then it's modern, like some shit Tyler would do, Tyler the Creator. Like that's honestly, those are the references I kept hearing. And then Kate, by the end of it, the movement of it just feels like Steely Dan. And It's like, all right, bet. I'm right at home then. And I don't know if we had just heard the Fela story or maybe we heard it right after the sessions. Kate, the Fela story about being in the studio, you could tell it. Have we just heard that then or was it after those sessions?
The story about him kicking out the young woman in his studio?
Yeah.
I heard that story a long time ago. I don't remember if we talked about it right then, but yeah, basically Fela had his own compound in Nigeria and recording studio inside, and I guess other people were allowed to come in and he had other people coming in and recording and whatnot. But one day he happened to be there and there was somebody who, I don't know how it ran or whatever, but she was recording in there and the take stopped, or he stopped the take. I don't remember, but he was basically like, you got to go, and she's like, why? And she's, singing this beautiful love song. And he's like, we're at war, you got to go. And I'm really glad you brought that up. That was it. It was like, do you know what's going on right now? Like, you can't come in here and spend time on love songs right now. There's a war going on.
Yeah, don't shy away from the truth. Don't shy away from what's really going on. These are the things that need music created about it. So, Oof.
Got fear reeking off you, I'm letting God be my pilot. Never falling under pressure, my prophecy to go diamond. My spaceship is taking off, you roll with me, then climb inside it. While I'm dolo, I'm reminded, forever big timing. No taboos, they've been exposed. I pray you grow out the bloodshed. Concrete sprouted out of rose was never home. Let me go, they never know, they never know.
I block the flow when I think it's on my whole life.
Track 3, Is Anybody There? Kate and Monty, you both sang The Nerve of Me, I Thought I Could Make Up for Time. What does that mean to you?
My bad, y'all, for getting like mad religious. And shout out to Quiddy too, because he texted me the other day. He was like, bro, what is survivor's remorse for mean to you? And I'm just like, damn, that's a crazy question. But even crazier that I have a real specific answer. My stepbrother and I were 5 months apart. And the same time when my parents were packing up to drive me to college, he was being shipped from county jail to Pelican Bay. Like my stepbrother, we shared a bed for 4 years, for crying out loud. And you're going, damn, why me, not him, or vice versa? Like literally, that shit was eating me up the whole way to school in like that first, I want to say like the first quarter, because our Oregon school systems are on quarter system. And I'm like, damn, why? What's going on? And you go, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that to make up for this. And it's this weird obsession with playing God and thinking that you could have changed any of that shit. Like, I couldn't have done anything. Like, I'd like to think so. And that seems to like morph and manifest in all these different other spaces of my life. Of like, oh, I could have done this better, done this. And it really does inform how you move, the decisions you make, what fear. Europe, for example, the first time we went with Flo and I, so many other people were supposed to go and they just didn't. I didn't know Flo very well. Ethan, our guitar player at the time, I knew well enough where I was like, okay, I could kind of figure it out. But the fear, like, damn, man, my guys can't go. We dreamt of doing this together. It's like, bruh, get over yourself and go. You not going is going to do so much more. I'd been hearing it my whole life, but right when we were making the album is when it was coming to fruition. It was becoming something that was applicable to life. And it's like, fam, you're not God. And again, it's another ode to the Travis album, Stop Trying to Be God. The nerve of me thinking I could make up for all this. It is like this ego debt, for real, for real. A lot of that is forgiveness of self, forgiveness of the process, surrendering. Surrendering is probably the best word because it's just like, move on. There's so much other stuff that lies ahead of us that we could fixate and obsess over. You worried about something that happened years ago, yesterday. It's like that's done. When you see the best athletes, Steph Curry, LeBron, they are not worried about the last play. Like, you just can't. It's not serving you in any way. And that was truly a conversation just trying to have internally. It's like, yo, fixating on what was isn't serving anything moving forward.
I think for me, it's actually the line before that invokes a lot of imagery for me. The "so far from perfect, no problem with sharing my light."
Mm-hmm.
I think that like ties to what you were saying about surrendering perfection. That's a huge piece of being able to be at the top of your game, because, to your point about athletes, it's like, if you are looking at the last play, you're not looking at the next play. And so this idea of surrendering that need for perfection. And I tell this to my students, it's like, always keep going through the song, even when you screw up, because if you're thinking about the thing you just messed up, then you're not thinking about the thing that's coming up. So guess what? You're going to mess that up too. You know what I mean? Like, you have to almost immediately in music leave behind your perfectionism. And, that's a nuanced thing, because it doesn't mean don't aim for excellence. It just means let go of that part of you that's going to be the critic, that's going to spend time on that when you really need to be sharing your light.
I love it. I think that the surrendering and the ego death are such big concepts throughout this album, but it's just honestly exciting to me that you guys were able to mix in the surrendering and the ego death with the state of America and the state of the world. And I think kind of coupling those together is so exciting for me, because once you start to do that, you realize how much they have to do with each other. Like, America has this ridiculous ego that it can't let go of. So to do that introspectively while also doing it for the country as a whole, like, just really blows my mind, man.
You nailed it.
That's a bar, Fish.
That is a bar.
You guys ghost wrote the bar. I'm just interpreting what I feel, man. It's crazy. Man.
It's so true. America has the same problem I discovered about myself. It's like, it's so defensive,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, let go of that need to have been right.
Yep.
Can we move forward on what is right and hold on to the need to be right? Probably not.
So true. Now we got to talk about power. Of course, dedicated to Nia Wilson, but Power just has such a striking sound to it. It still fits the soundscape and fits the project, but I don't know if it's like synths. There's these other instruments that you can hear more on this song. Noble, do you want to kind of talk about what went into making Power?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember my headspace when I was writing these instrumentals. I mean, the drums already had this like kind of rock hard feel to it, especially like just the like tone quality of them. It just kind of reminded me of, I don't know, some heavy rock song.
The drums are ridiculously live.
Like in an arena. Like even the intro is like an arena show,
Yeah, and when I started like hearing these drums, I was like, okay, well, I need like really loud sounds or something that'll like make it big. I was like trying to tweak synth sounds that like gave these big kind of build-ups or interesting synthesizer sounds and stuff. There's like change ups in the song too, where it gets like a little bit softer at the end, but it still has these like really big punchy drums. Like I said before, it really, the drums kind of, when I hear tones of drums and stuff like that, they kind of sort of push me musically to like something that I'm like, oh, this got to be really heavy or intense or something along those lines. So I just wanted the sounds to be not so pretty, but more like aggressive, because I felt like the tone of the drums were pretty aggressive and had more of like a pushing element towards that style of music. But I don't remember the headspace I was in. It was just more like trying to find big sounding instruments and synths that would make the music kind of fit and come together. Kind of the vibe I sort of remember writing to that one specifically.
You definitely did it, man. Monty, is there anything you want to add about Power?
Yeah, what all of the music had in common was how intimidating it all was. It's just a really big sound, especially like you got to come with your A game. Like I had to tap into stuff that I had not uncovered yet as an artist. Luckily, Kate had recently got me thinking about breath control, and we had already talked about singing and like notes and breathing in general. So it's like a lot of the just even approach, like the writing style, the cadences, some of the pockets was like, again, the music was informing it. And these are things that I wanted to be able to do eventually. I didn't think I was there just yet, though, you know? So it's like, hey, you asked for this. Are you willing to step up to the plate and push yourself? And Power specifically was one of those, because I think we recorded that. That was one of the songs. At least I did my verse in the town.
Frequency Studio.
Yeah.
That was the only joint on the record that we did in somebody else's.
Yeah.
Well, Truth
space.
too, but
And Truth, yeah.
But yeah, that was the first time we recorded together. Like we were in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
I had met you before that, Kate. I think we had like a sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the first time like kind of got to see how everybody worked. And I remember like, I think it was after the session, we went to a bar and just kind of was like, yeah, we're going to make this happen type thing. Let's all come together.
But quickly, especially that session informed the fact of why we ended up doing it remotely. Because it was like, it was just specific things we wanted to try and like get a little bit more creative and like not feel like you were rushed. And Exclusive is my dude. Like that's my guy forever.
It was fun.
Yeah, sometimes the nicer studios don't lend to like, nah, take your shoes off, go somewhere else, really go explore and see what you can uncover in this approach. And I am ultimately grateful that we did it that way, because Power, the spirit of the town, needed to be in that song.
Mm-hmm.
We finished it and then immediately drove around, because the Nia Wilson clip wasn't even in there. I remember that night leaving the studio and meeting at the bar downtown and like driving downtown and like seeing all the posters and stuff and never forgetting that feeling. And then I think it was on KPFA. Kate and I were listening to that on the way to the bar and they were talking about it too. So it's just like, this is the soundtrack to that time. And again, the music just being larger than life really is what I remember the most.
I also want to say about that song, and you know I'm a big Monty Draper fan, that's one of my favorite pieces of creative writing that you've ever done. It's just the cadence of it, the way you say it, the way it's arranged, and then just the depth and like how intimate you are, like from literally the first 3 words, losing my father.
Yeah.
It's just like immediately you take us right in there and we're going to talk about it, you know?
Yeah.
And in fact, it was that audacity, I think, if I'm remembering it right, like to me, that's exactly why I wrote what I did at the end, because I was thinking about my relationship with my mother and, we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about it, because that's actually part of the problem is we're not talking about it. So let's talk about it. And then just how everything's connected and the fact that both of us talking about something so personal to us, then it's kind of part of this bigger meaning for the song that is definitely like way beyond us.
Yeah, having those conversations, whether they're about the world or about yourself, but also doing it in a way that people can relate to in their own way and encourage them to have those conversations too. I think that track just completely embodies that.
Mm-hmm.
That leads us to track 5, Close Reach.
You talk in your sleep, not scared in your dreams. No smoke, your brain got dead close reach. You talk in your sleep, not scared in your dreams. No smoke, your brain got dead close reach. Never far on the back roads with the headlights off. In a vision, you believe it when you see.
Close Reach has driving metaphors that kind of weave in and out of the song. I know you guys all collaborated when it comes to the writing. How did that metaphor come to play in that song?
Wow, she picked the spot, didn't she? Oh, man. We literally sat in that studio and sometimes it was word for word, but sometimes line for line. We were just going back and forth. And that was kind of the moment where we really painted at the exact same time, that section. For me, my imagery took me back. Like, it was my first record that I ever made. And I lived in Indianapolis, just north of Indianapolis. And I was going to a studio, which was with my old guitar player who lived at Ball State, where I went. And every time I would go to the studio and we'd work on this record, I would drive home at like 3 o'clock in the morning for the back streets. They're not even streets, cornfields. Cornfields, fields, just forest and whatnot. And I saw that image constantly as we were writing this.
Ever far and on the back road with the headlights off.
On the back roads with the headlights off. Yeah, which I did do from time to time. I feel like we've all done that. But yeah, that imagery is very vivid for me. What was it for you, Monty?
Not Astro World. What's the Travis album for Astro World with Antidote on it? There's a song where he's talking about the long way home. And I just remember when that song dropped and being with my immediate group of partners, like my crew just so happens to be my cousins, and us sort of geeking out about taking a long way home, because our moms damn near didn't want us to have cars because of like what that could mean. Like, one of my cousins is from the East, my other cousin is from a part of Berkeley, and then the rest of us are from Richmond. So it's just like driving through certain parts at certain times of the night could cost you your life. We used to have to take the long way home to heighten your chances of getting home safe. And so I remember thinking about that, but just not wanting to make it so doom and gloom, like wanting to make it kind of sexy, kind of fly a little bit. And the music kind of set the tone. That's one of those songs where we were sitting outside and having a conversation. And then the concept of talking in your sleep came up. Somebody just said it. And then we just riffed on talking in your sleep for a heck of long, just like making jokes. The more we riffed on it, I was like, well, that's the chorus. Like, that's the hook. I don't know for whatever reason, I attribute sleep to like comfort because my sleeping habits suck. It's a part of the love language. Like, yo, if I fall asleep in front of you, I probably love you for real. Like, because it's just like, and I don't mean like just kind of catch Z's. I mean like sleep to the point where you talking in your sleep. It was just like simplifying all these different terms. But then Kate, with the poetic style of writing, Kate put me on Joni Mitchell. Kate put me on Neil Young. All these people where I'm like, damn, that's a dope ass way of writing music. And it informs so much of this whole phase of my own career, where it's like, because I think I probably would identify as a poet first before anything. It's just creative writing. But the way Joni does it, the way Neil Young does it, the way Erica does it, the way Black Thought does it is way more in alignment with the way I would do it. I just don't know if I'd ever thought about it structurally like that. And taking something as simple as taking the long way home so that you don't die and making it this over-looming metaphor for just being free and what that could mean. And it's a many way to sort of break things down, but I'm so grateful for it because I've been searching for these unique ways to capture my own experience and a lot of my friends' experience through this way that isn't these heightened images of trauma and drama. We don't need another Boys in the Hood. We don't need another Menace to Society. Just trying to do it in a way more cinematic, like palatable way that humanizes these stories and doesn't create this wall of like, oh, well, that's just theater. It's like, nah, fam, like that's a real thing. My mom would be like, don't go that way. I'm like, all right, bet I'm gonna go the long way. And it's gonna add on a whole 30 minutes to my route home, but bet so that you'll sleep better, I'll go the long way.
That's exactly what it is. It's capturing that experience and presenting it in a way that is thought-provoking and not necessarily divisive, or like you said, can be written off as theatrical. Like, it's just truth, and it's in a way that, like I said, it just really makes you think, and there's so much power in that. Then we get to the celebration, two-step, freedom, flying all at once.
Don't hold your breath, I ain't gave up yet. Remember, I didn't know where I'd wake up next. Odds low, stakes high, place your bets, run that check. This is all I got left. No more for me, so far from where I'm supposed to be. Oversleep, alarm clock, Joe to see. Diary of a mad band, hot damn, run the cam, get the floor side. Right. So where that's hate, the love so close. Don't sink this ship, watch me let go. Take it back, not a peek in the rear view. I gotta leave, but I pray these words reach you. Selfish and I know I didn't mean to.
Oh my goodness. The biggest takeaway from that one is fall in line or fall in love that you both sang. Who wrote that line?
Dun, dun, dun. That would be Mr. Monty Draper.
Somebody sing it. I don't know why I can't hear it right now.
It's exactly what you thought it was. Fall in line or fall in love. Never mind if promise comes, pray and go get a love all at once.
All at once is crazy. Kate just had to send surprise, surprise, like spoiler alert, we're doing a collab
Dun, dun, dun.
performance with Jazz Mafia.
Yes.
Kate had to send over like a one sheet of like explaining what the song is about. And I clearly was not responding fast enough. She was like, yo, what's this mean? And then by the time I went to respond, she was sending me her interpretation. I was like, nah, that's spot on. Like I know I wouldn't even have said it as well as she did though, you know. Fall in line or fall in love. That line specifically for me is getting a better idea of what love is. I think prior to making the record, how much creativity, because I think just going music or being a rapper kind of diminishes what being able to express myself means to a part of my like mental health. So there's like, oh, I can compromise that and be with someone who just doesn't appreciate that at all. No, I can't. It's impossible. It informs so much of who I am and my happiness and my sadness and my insecurity, my confidence, everything, right? And you learn it, but it's like, it's one thing to learn it. Now how do you apply it, sort of stand on it and go, hey, this is kind of what it is. And it's like drawing a pretty hard line. And I know it can sound kind of bleak or harsh or whatever, but I'd like to think the rest of the song kind of makes up for the straightforwardness of that line in a way where it offers a lot of context, because it's like the whole song is written around that line, fall in line or fall in love. Like and everything else is written around it. And it's like, all right, again, it's that dark and the light special that you've been talking about. It's like, can we enhance that and offer some hopefulness and potentially some answers and just some more depth? Let's build on this. Never mind if promise comes, pray and go get it, love all at once. Not removing ourselves of the ownership and the responsibility. It's like, and so many times in anything, it's like, oh, they did this to me. This person, no, what did you do? Like, oh, take ownership for your shit. And a lot of that, while it sounds like it's being like talking to someone else, that's all to me. Like, pray and go get it, love all at once. Like, you can pray, but faith without works is what? Like, everybody can finish that part, you know? So just remembering that, especially in relationships, like Kate and I talk about it all the time. Outside of being on a project together, that's my partner, like for real. And so the relationships can't be one-sided at all. You have to do the work and check on people and let them know that you're thinking about them, especially our stronger friends. Rest in peace to Jazz Waters, but that's what Charlemagne and all them were talking about. It's like our smartest, strongest friends, we kind of go, oh, they gonna be okay.
Right.
Nah, I want my smartest, strongest friends that inspire me the most to know that I'm thinking about them all the time. So let me do the work to tap in, you know, and to check up and to make sure that they straight. There's nothing that they need, because all my friends who may not be as strong or who I don't lean on as much for just space and inspiration, I talk to them all the time, you know, and my strongest friends, I might holler at them once a week or when it's time to do some work or whenever I see them, and just betting on the fact that they're going to be okay, especially how much we talk. Like, you know, I'll be like, she going to be all right. Nah, I want to do better by people I pull from, because I pull from y'all the most. It only makes sense.
There's so much power in that, and just knowing that, you know, it's not about who holds more, but they just hold it differently. But that's not to say that they're not holding anything. So it's
Facts.
like, it's really taking time to be like, okay, they're still holding something, they're just holding it differently, so they still need to be checked on and supported and all
Absolutely.
that stuff. So that's beautiful. Kate, did you want to add anything to All at Once?
Just that the experience of writing that bridge was noteworthy for me as an artist. Probably like one of the most special moments. Like Monty talked about how I've shared like breathing, breath control things, and just as a voice teacher as well, like now that I've been doing it more full time, I've come to like drink my own Kool-Aid, I guess, even more. You know, I'm just like, oh, the breath is everything. And we had fun, like, you know, Monty was like, let's sing this. And I'm like, okay, let's really sing it. Like, let's work on it. Monty often will write melodies for me, and then I might tweak it a tiny bit. and it might be exactly what he was trying to do anyway, you know, or it might be a tiny bit different. But I've always told Monty too, like, I like his voice a lot. So I wanted him to sing on this, and I wanted him to like really sing, not just like spot me, but like telling me, you know, do it sort of like this. But I wanted his voice on it. And it's one of my favorite parts on the record. We did it over and over again. It was really fun, and we got it right. The lyrics of that as well. I will remember you. I know that life gets hard, but don't you quit too soon. Like, what's my rush? The fear of running out of moonlight. But don't you cry for me. I'll touch the sky for you. It's kind of also about, like, as somebody who wants to move people forward and has that kind of community movement heart, there's also these times where you do have to sort of say, I'll see you later, to folks that can't go on that journey with you. Mm-hmm. And so that part of the lyrics kind of represents that to me. It's like, you got to pray, you got to go get it, you got to not wait on your props, you got to like bet it all, you know, that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. And sometimes you also got to say to the folks that kind of won't get it or that just can't, and just, you know, they got to do their own thing. You know, they can't always be along for that ride. And so kind of bidding a fond farewell to those folks and keeping them with you in spirits, kind of that imagery is really heavy for me in that part of the song.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you both kind of speak about boundaries in two different ways, but also a very understanding, and, you know, boundaries don't have to be these terrible, huge walls. They can just be like, hey, it's not even that you don't want to do this. I understand that you can't, and that's okay, and I'm going to carry on. And that's felt in different ways on that song. Noble, did you want to add anything about All at Once?
They pretty much summed up the lyrics and stuff. I do want to kind of comment on one thing. I do remember after recording it, just to solidify how much that song means, I just remember having lunch, and Kate kind of broke down a little bit just in the process of going over the song. And I think that song means a lot to everybody, but specifically, I think they made like a great connection in terms of really building on that song and the emotional connection they have towards it. And I think that one just really kind of gave me a better understanding of how much they connect musically also, both Kate and Monty, and the bond that they have writing together and collaborating together. You really notice it when you're in the studio with them, just their communication and the way they talk through things and stuff like that. And I think that song particularly was a good way of just witnessing how they collaborate and how they communicate. I don't know, it was a pretty awesome experience to see them work through that song and kind of come up with the concepts and the melodies and the harmonies. And I just think for the group, there's a lot of emotional connection to that song. It's a good one.
Definitely. You can feel the emotional connection, and especially with that song, the fact that you guys are both singing, it's bigger than collaboration, and you can feel that. It's like, oh, this is a synchronization that can only happen through emotions and through connection and through actual time and creativity, and just a great culmination of all of that. I think that kind of leads us to Proud.
Take 6, I lost all my patience. Don't know where the days went, how addictive the fame is. Young, black, and shameless. Tell my mama, tell me chill. It was just last year. Baby, front the whole bill. Want the real. This high might scare you, they can't compare you. Build your own lane, Noble, turn up the treble. Assassinate the devil, G-Funk and heavy metal. Go to war with Jehovah's rebels. It's something special, this balance. Excess over talent, you want the status.
Proud starts out kind of dark and rugged and then gets light and airy. And as I was listening to it and writing the questions, I noticed this like morning symbolism. And as I'm writing out the morning symbolism, I'm like, oh shit, the dark and rugged to the light and airy, it's literally feels like from night to day. So with the morning symbolism and just the sound of it going from kind of dark to light, for you, Kate, what was it like writing Proud?
Did I write Proud?
Well, yeah, it was collaborative.
I think Proud is one of those, they were real gracious and like letting me just like be me, mad supportive. And again, the dark with the light is a real specific, like looking back on it now, especially, like I can laugh about it now, but the amount of things I was experiencing at one time is a lot. But you get into this real crazy space of not wanting to complain, not really knowing who you should talk to. It's like people got their own issues, like, you know, it's all these different things. And so Proud was the perfect space to get out everything. But again, wanting to humanize the conversation and not have it be trapped in these over brolic sort of scenario. Like, I just like gangster rap music and everything. Like, go back and listen to Wu-Tang. It sounds like cries for help, really, now that we know what we're talking about. These were broken ass black men that didn't know who to talk to. And so they just made it sound dope. Damn, how do you remove that wall where everybody's listening and jamming to your shit and they go, damn, do you need anything? Like, do you need a hug? Like, anything like that. But I can honestly say, because Proud's my favorite record, but it's also a proud moment for me in writing, where it's like there's ownership there, there's processing, and there's closure. There's all these different things happening at once, but ultimately the respect is sustained. It's not F you, I'm over this. It's like, it's not, and no, it doesn't have to be none of that. It's just like, nah, two people served each other in these real codependent ass spaces, realized it, moved on, and are better for it, but it didn't end in the way that you would see in Black Hollywood or in Hollywood in general. But I know in Black Hollywood, it's just like, it's got to be, it's just crazy, you know, and it kind of manifests in a real world sense. And then it's not even just as specific as like a love interest. There's parts of like family and stuff in there too. It's a lot of different elements where you're coming to these realizations with family and friends and people that you absolutely adore, that the relationship just is no longer serving either of you. It's not an easy decision. And then sometimes you don't even have the tools to make the right decision. And I still lean on the music, just writing. The music wrote that. If the soundscape isn't like that, there's no way those words come together the way that they did.
That's right. And the end of that song, I just remember, I mean, still every time it comes on, I'm blown away, but just the layering. I guess I did write that line just at the end. Let me testify. If this won't change my life, I don't have time. I mean, that's what I was feeling listening to the art that both Noble and Monty were presenting. And Monty, thanks for saying that we're gracious and all that. And yeah, we're definitely, that's kind of the way I love to collaborate as well, is leave space for everybody to do their thing. But like, you showing up with what you brought to me was absolutely a gift. The end of that song is just kind of like that amazing. I thought it was the last song on the record. I thought it was going to be the last because it just has that feeling, you know, at the end of that song, we're just like, the whole cast just got back on the Broadway stage. And it's like the epilogue, or I can't remember the name of the orchestration for the outro, but it kind of has that feeling to me. And yeah, just what was already there was so inspiring. It was like at any given turn, you could just be like, okay, let's record. I got another little layer to add here, because it was just, the inspiration was just on tap.
Very much so. Mani, and I just love how you talked about the process of being like, okay, these are two people who it just doesn't serve them anymore. And I think that as adults, when we go through that in our regular life, it kind of opens us up to kind of process that for, like you said, for our families and for these people that we've experienced that with, but we didn't understand what it was. And it's just like, oh, okay, you can kind of make peace with that. And I think that's just incredibly important.
100%. It was you hit it on the head though, Spesh. Like, you don't even know you're carrying it. You know, whatever baggage I may have had for how my parents' marriage ended or whatever, like going through my own growing apart from someone, I was able to forgive them for stuff that I didn't know I needed to forgive them for. It was a whole bunch of different things happening at one time that I was like, wait a minute, like, why does this feel so real? And I just remember seeing my dad the very next weekend. We had a real dope conversation, but it was one that I don't know I would have been able to access had everything else not transpired, you know. So it's a level of trading grace, you know, is how I think of it. And forgiveness sounds weird because I didn't need to forgive him for nothing. Like, his life is his life, mine is mine. But it is a level of understanding where it's like, bro, I see you and I empathize with you for real. And I think that's more important than like forgiveness, especially when it comes to like a parent and stuff. They have to allow for you to live your life, for you to come full circle and be like, my bad, Dad, I was tripping. You know, like it's just such a long waiting process. Like, bro, you had to wait almost 30 years for me to get my understanding. The word definitely isn't forgiveness. It's something different. I like to think we uncovered it in the music for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely understanding and processing and just going through it as well and being like, oh, okay, I get you now. Like, It's all good. Noble, did you want to add anything about the production of Proud?
The song actually has my cousin on it, Ross Eustace, another talented person, Adam Thies. I already laid down a horn section in there, like the horn idea, but they kind of just brought it like this much more dynamic vibe, and they really added some cool textures in there. So I'm pretty proud to have a cousin on there. They play on 2 tracks.
Jazz Mafia.
Yeah, part of Jazz Mafia. Those 2, and then a group by the name of the Spearman Brothers.
Yes.
Those are the only 2 other players we have on the project in terms of musicians. Spearman Brothers played on 2 tracks, and then Adam and Ross played on 2 tracks. But I think that they really brought some very cool energy to the music itself. That one turned out awesome. I love that track.
Yes, Monty already knows I'm obsessed with the Spearman Brothers. Like, oh my, we could be here for days. But definitely all those instruments just add another layer of feeling and, like you said, energy. And it just really makes it such a cohesive thing. You're just really bringing the music to life. So it's beautiful.
When the walls came down, I saw children all around, restoring my sight. A shadow drifting in a halo of light. Off the bed instead in dreams. I love them all. I cry when they hurt.
I mean, I could be wrong. These are all my interpretations. But it just feels super Nina Simone-esque. You're in your own way.
It's special. I'm getting sweaty.
But like, you did it in a way that it's all feeling. You feel it and it's still you, but I just feel her. How do you approach a song like Truth?
Wow. Honestly, that was the first song. For me personally, we got to kind of back up a little bit. You know, we had not been to Napa. I didn't know who Noble was. So it was a few months before that. And I had just stopped working at my amazing job.
Big comfy job, like Bay Area comfy. So
Bay Area comfy, but comfy beyond like this big corporate style of comfy. Comfy like my boss is a mentor to me, you know, woman-owned business, trying to make a difference in corporate as a management consulting firm and like caring about all the right things and taking care of people. And so big, wonderful job that I did, that I loved, did for all the right reasons, but it took me away from music, I think, to the point where for everyone's sanity, I had to sort of kind of come back to see what else I could make happen, make work, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that was literally the first Monday after I stopped working for this. And I called Monty. I'm like, can we do a session? You know, I got to make some music. And so he's like, yeah. So he comes over and then he's like, well, I just got all these package of beats from Noble. You want to start with that or start from scratch? I'm like, no, let's start from that. Almost might have picked that because it was there. It was easy. It was done. Like, let's do it. So he puts it on. And I think it was right around the time when it was becoming really clear that like the current administration was going to be a bully to people of color. And the first group that I feel like the administration was picking on was immigrants from the South. And I just remember all of a sudden it was illuminating. All of a sudden everybody realized that there were bunches of people being held, bunches of kids being held in detention around border crossings. And, you know, in my privilege, that was kind of the first time I'd heard about that. So that was literally where we were at politically at that moment. So for me, it was all about this wall building. You know, that was the big talk. We're building a wall. F these kids, basically. That got the pen going, you know. The music, first of all, I was like, whoa, that organ is crazy. And it just sounded, that's the thing about Noble's beats. Like when he sent them, they were basically what you hear now. We had it mastered by the amazing Dave Cooley and mixed by Push Kalan, and they did amazing work. But like Ivan's music was pretty much done. Like his mixes were...
It was insane.
They were just so hard. And so I heard it and it was immediately it was a landscape, you know, it was a soundscape. It was a cinematographic for me. So I saw it and I don't know. It just came pretty quick. It was just a poem. He just put it on loop for me. And I see that the lyrics to that as a poem for the kids that were being detained. And just, you know, I'm also speaking to people like myself who care very much, but, our privilege causes these big gaps in time. And so if we're not committed to kind of constantly paying attention, I guess that kind of going back to what I wanted to reiterate in terms of what Monty was saying, unless we're committed to constantly writing about it, unless we're committed to like constantly having the conversation, there can be these like big gaps in time, where you just kind of forget like, oh, the rest of the world's being oppressed. And of course, I'm sure you can relate. It's like now I don't ever want to have those gaps again. But I think that writing and to say Nina Simone, thank you, first of all. Is there a higher compliment? I'm not sure if there is. But Nina, of course, is famous for saying that same thing that Fela said, which is like, it's your job, artist. It's your job to report what you see. And I was also heavily influenced by another artist of the similar time, Joni Mitchell, who very much seemed like that person, just like that kind of bird's eye view, looking down and reporting. And so that's kind of that poetry style, that writing style that I used at the beginning of Truth. And then Monty wrote the rest, and he just came in and messed it all up.
No, but that perspective and using a song called Truth to be truthful about how, sometimes we can live in these bubbles and we can kind of lose grasp of what's really happening and who's really being affected, and reeling it back in to be, oh no, like this is happening, it needs to be talked about, here it is. I think that there's so much power in that.
Absolutely. Because you want to wear, as an artist too, I get mad at myself because I want to wear all the hats of the movement. But I think, of course, there's the everyday stuff, paying attention, being consistent, constantly learning, having a growth mindset. But then also just, I'm an artist. So making sure that I'm doing my job, telling the stories is probably my biggest hat.
Definitely. Noble, do you remember anything specific about creating that soundscape for Truth?
I do. That song I actually made like a long time ago, like a one-off song that I sent Monty with like some other tracks. And I made it like quite a while ago, probably like a couple years before I made the stuff for the album itself. It has kind of a different tonal quality to it, but it was just so powerful. Of course, we had to add it to the album itself. It was the first song that I heard them on, and I just did Monty's podcast, and we were vibing in the studio and playing music and stuff like that. And when I gave him those tracks, I was kind of just expecting some hip-hop music being sent back to me, kind of. And that track really kind of inspired the process, I guess, the steps towards making this album as a whole, because when he sent it to me, honestly, the funny thing is I didn't even realize that it was a female singing at first. I thought it was a male, because Kate really like grabbed onto this really interesting tone, and I couldn't decipher. I was like, who is this? Because I really didn't know what it was. I didn't know Kate at the time either. I didn't know who it was. So I was like so confused, but I was like, it wasn't in a bad way. I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. But when's Monty coming in? And then he came in the verse, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is crazy. At that moment, I was like, I gotta talk to these guys about doing some kind of project without even knowing Kate or who she was or anything like that. I literally texted them right after hearing the song like 10 times, probably in a row. And I was like, we have to do a project with whoever this other person is. So it was kind of like the song that kind of set the project in motion. And I already had some music created that was going to be for my next project. I just didn't know what it was. And I talked to Kate maybe like 2 days after or something like that as an introduction. And I was like, yeah, I got this new music. Let me send it to you. I played it for Monty, but I didn't send it to him yet because I just didn't know what I was going to do with the music. And then after I talked to her for like 40 minutes or something, and then I was like, okay, I'm sending them Monty, and I'm like praying to God they're going to work with me, because I was like, we got to make this project happen.
I love it so much. I mean, if I haven't encouraged you to go and listen to this, I don't know what else to do. I encourage people to listen to it multiple times. Like I said, take the time to actually sit with it and let yourself go to these places that these songs just embody. We'll start with Noble. Anything else you want to tell the people about Concrete Violet?
You know, honestly, I'm just like really happy and proud to be part of the process with Monty and Kate. I think we made it like a great project, and I'm more just happy that we're building a friendship based on artistic values and stuff like that. I feel like these two people are some of the most talented out of the Bay, so for me to just be in the mix of action, I'm hyped. I hope it transcends and, you know, we'll follow along, but I hope the people relate to it as much as we did musically and emotionally and everything like that. But I'm just happy to be part of the process and be building with talent in the Bay. So listen to Concrete Violet. Hope you guys like it.
Yes, yes. Kate, anything else you want to tell the people about Concrete Violet?
The concept of the name has grown on me even during this podcast. The juxtaposition of such a vulnerable, tender thing that survives in such a hard and callous material, right? And I think we've talked about it a little bit artistically, how kind of the juxtaposition of Mani's rap and my singing, how that similarly can create this hard against soft, or this kind of like two opposing things coming together. And then also in the way that Noble writes. You talked about, when the beat flips and all of a sudden you're surprised. It's like his beats are almost like that. You got one thing put up against another that seem like they shouldn't even be able to exist together. And so I hope people find the relevance in that to today. I do think it's timeless music. And to me, we need more of that. It's a very emotional time, and in a time in the movement where, like Mani was talking about in his podcast, mental health being co-opted and kind of, people not always being able to even trust the idea that talking about mental health is safe, right? And just it being such an emotional time for so many, and especially for our Black brothers and sisters who have been dealing with it forever. So I don't want to say right now, because it's not right now, but we are in right now. And so I hope that this music plays some part in people being able to witness vulnerability and to have it tap in somehow to their survival and our survival as something precious and vulnerable in such a hard and callous time.
Ooh, those are bars. Goodness gracious. But incredibly true. Like the survival and the vulnerability are felt not only in this project, but in the world right now. And it's so important to express those things and feel those things and also have a place to go with those things. I think that this not only kind of being a soundtrack to that, but also a good accompaniment to it, and people being able to lean on it and unpack not only how they feel, but what they see. And I think that that's just very, very important. Mani, anything else you want to add about Concrete Violet?
I just want to thank all three of y'all. We talked about like climate, right? In the time period we're in right now. It's so weird because I cringe when people say it, but it's like, how else are you supposed to say it? Things are fucked up right now, right? And for me, I've always been hopeful that art as a whole will be the catalyst to healing. And,
Yes.
And through, we kind of are seeing that, right? Like it's kind of what it is. But optically, when you look at who came together, not on just this record, Kate and I are a part of another compilation that are coming out. Ivan and I have endless songs together. Ivan has come and done video production for the other records. Special covers all of our records. Like we've built a community and have put an emphasis on the economic transaction between all of us. So if it's video work, if it's background vocals, if it's interviews, if it's journalism, if it's Jeremy with photos, like people have studios, there's producers, there's other rappers, like moving the conversation forward towards the economics. Like, yeah, we collaborated in the studio, but we also put our bread together and pressed vinyl. Ivan came up with the concept for the cover. Like, if there's so many other parts that go well beyond the studio. And I know it's easier to sort of separate it and try to have a million different conversations, right? But if you want to be an ally for real, since that's the word that's being thrown, if you want to be an ally for real, let's talk access, let's talk resources, let's talk economics in general. I couldn't even be more grateful to my family on this call right here, and how you guys have opened up your resources and provided access, not for just me, but for a whole bunch of people in your world. And everybody walking around lost and sad, trying to figure out, oh, how do I help? That's just do the work. Just show up and do the work. And so to my family on Concrete Violet, to Spesh, thank y'all for doing the work and walking the walk. And anybody confused by what to do, just take notice to the people that's doing it. That's it. Simple as that. And so for the artists, especially that are confused, oh, should I drop music? Does it need to be protest? Just do the work and continue to do the work, continue to show up. And that's why I'm so grateful being able to share this with the world, because we did the work, and the music was the easy part. Everything else
Right.
was so hard, and revision and debates and what do we think, like, and I'm proud of us for doing that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so proud of us for doing that. And again, I'm so grateful to my squad for being patient with me at times. Everybody's kind of had to carry the torch. When I was doing 10 other things and checked out, Ivan and Kate were carrying the torch. And then when Ivan had shit going on, Kate was carrying it, and everybody's taking their turns. And we're here now. So I'm grateful for that. Like Noble said in the beginning, like, just getting to work with people I think the world of. I'm fans of all three of y'all and look forward to what's after this. Like, now that we got this, what we doing next?
Season 2.
Yeah. It's incredible, the talent, the expression that you guys bring, and honestly, just for me, taking the time and actually giving me these stories and sharing with me. I just thank you guys so much for the music, the stories, taking the time, all of the above. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your thoughtful questions, your enthusiasm, your fandom, all of it.
No problem. And thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever you're listening on. If you haven't checked out Concrete Violet on Bandcamp, that link is in the description, along with links to reach out to me if you just want to say hi or let me know what your favorite part was. I'm on Twitter at SpecialSays, and on Instagram it's at SpecialSays as well. As always, this episode is dedicated to Marlon. Do what you can to stop senseless acts of gun violence.